we continue? Okay, competitors, may I have your attention, please? Let's continue. Okay. So we will have time penalties, like I said, which will be used to determine the winner, right? The last few are the ones that I was talking about. So you have to come to the start point. You can't start the rally anywhere halfway through, right? You have to come to the start point and register and move forward from that point, okay? So some of the other things are not there because there is no service or anything like that, right? And also the start, if you get late, you will get time penalties from there as well. So how you can start it? We will have the app, you will have it downloaded and running, and I'll be sharing all those information as we proceed today. And at the start line, you will press the start button to start the app, okay? And then you just proceed. And every time you pass a checkpoint, it will let you know that you have arrived at the checkpoint and it will give you the time. And then from that point, you have to recalculate your average and work out how you're going to run the rest of the rally. I will show you how that is done. So the app that we are going to use is available on both iPhones as well as Android. And if you type the word here, Virtual Marshal, VIRTUAL, Marshal, MARSHAL, and you will see this logo. That is the app that we will be using. Okay. So ideally, if you are really running to be competitive, it's highly recommended that you use an app on a phone that is not too busy. Ideally, a dedicated phone or a second phone that you would use, not the one that you would continuously keep getting calls, right? Otherwise, of course, I would say temporarily change the SIM or keep it on only on Wi-Fi or whatever, only for data, and you can run. Otherwise, it will be a problem for you. The reason is this: the app does work, but if there are more and more calls and if it goes into the background and you bring it back, there might be slight lags. That depends on your phone and all that, right? So it works across the phones that have been in existence for the last 5 years or so, right? But still, for you to be successful, and if you are really concerned about those every single second, try and use it on a smartphone that doesn't have other features or where you're disturbed by phone calls, right? So, most important, make sure that the phone is charged, right? It doesn't use that much of data. I think if for the entire rally, it will be just about 200 MB or whatever of data at the most, right? Okay, so you don't need to worry too much about that if you have a decent data connection and if there are no other things that are happening in the phone, right? You have to enable location sharing. All those things will be set on the app, but don't try to prevent those. And those also will come up in the guides in the next few slides. Okay. But in case, if you do get the app, if you get a phone call or something, you have to bring it back into the foreground so that it works very well for you, right? It does run in the background, but like I said, you might have issues with that. So how does it work? Basically, it works on the phone GPS signal, right? And it has an accuracy threshold of plus or minus 1 to 2 seconds, right? And the logic is that your checkpoint is now a radius, unlike before, where you have to go to a point where the marshal is standing. Right now, the checkpoint is a radius, maybe for example, from there to there, right? Like 10 meters. So as you pass through that, it will calculate the midpoint for you and assign you the penalty if you are early or late. right? And if you're on time, it will say you arrived at the checkpoint, okay? The message, you can keep the speaker on, right, and keep the volume on full so that it will say, because the app will say you have reached time control whatever and the time is whatever, right? I will share a short video for you towards the end of this presentation. So it works across any speed, right? So it will do all its detection. We've run quite a few rallies here. We've worked with developers. It's run well over 300 rallies in India each year. So it does work very well, right? Provided you don't play around with your phone too much. So how does this rally work? So basically, this is where the part where I said you need to forget the old logic, right? So you start the rally at the start point. So in this case, it will be the Great Village Road start point, right? And you will have obviously the first timing instruction, which might say, for example, 25 kilometers per hour, right? Okay. 10 kilometers of distance, and you have to have an average speed of 25 kilometers per hour. Now, you know how to work out how you maintain speed, etc. Right? So, when you go on that average, maybe at this, for example, at the 7.8 kilometer mark, you arrive at a checkpoint or a time control, right? So at that point, the app will say that you have arrived at the time control, this is your time. So when you have that, you immediately have to note the distance. We will also within the app make it announce the distance as well to make it easier for you. So you note the distance, so you know that you have arrived at 7.8 kilometers, right? Okay. So you know that on the 10 kilometer stretch, you have another, what? 2.2 kilometers to go, right? And that 2.2 kilometers, also you've got to maintain the 25 kilometers per hour average speed, not from the time you started at TC01, but from the time you arrived at TC02. Okay? So if you have arrived late, right, by 10 seconds, you forget about the 10 seconds that has made you late now, right? You have now got your time penalty, right? Now you can't catch the time. That story is over. Okay, you have got the 10 seconds penalty, for example, and that's over. Now from that point, you consider it like a fresh rally and you say, I have 2.2 kilometers of average speed of 25 to go. So from that time, you work it and proceed. Okay, so overnight homework of all the speeds calculated and all is not going to help. You need to do it as you go. Okay, so when you reach the 10 kilometers, if there is no further checkpoint, right, you have the next set of instruction, 7 kilometers at the average speed of 32 kilometers per hour. So you change the speed and you keep going for the next timing instruction, right? And you come to the next checkpoint or time control, which is at the 17th kilometer. So you will work your time like this throughout, right? And what are the time controls? You will arrive, and from there you will work it like a fresh rally and keep going. That's how it works. So the only difference from the previous one is that you're not accumulating. So what you got late or early in the first time control or the second time control, you're not trying to catch that up, right? That is done. You work the rest of the distance, right? So you keep going like that all the way until the rally, right? So you will finish your rally line. Now let's visualize it in terms of the calculation. So when you start, you will be told that your average speed has to be 25, right? And for example, here to make it easy for calculation, I have said 5 kilometers, right? So when you go 5 kilometers at 25 kilometers per hour, roughly you will take 144 seconds for a kilometer, right? So you will be calculating that and you will be maintaining the speed and going through it, right? So if you are the first competitor starting the rally at 8:02, right? At the 2.7 kilometers, suppose you arrive at a checkpoint, right? And you arrive there, okay? You're supposed to arrive there at 8 o'clock, 8 minutes and 28 seconds, which means 6 minutes and 28 seconds, okay? But you arrive at 8:40, 8:40. So you're 12 seconds late, right? So now your new start time from that point is not 8:08:28 seconds, but 8:08:40, right? Now you have 2.3 kilometers left of that section, right? And you have to travel that at 25 kilometers per hour. Why? Because you don't know where the next time control is going to be, right? Okay? So within that 5 kilometers, the rest of that 5 kilometers, if you don't have a time control, you follow the next instruction and change your speed and keep going until you arrive at the time control. When you arrive at the next time control, right, your time is 8:14:12, which means you arrived on time, because that 2.3 kilometers you have to cover in 9 minutes and 17 seconds. Okay? And so you proceed. I will be sharing this presentation on the group as well, so you can work that out. So for example, then you have to work out what will happen if there is a time control at the 7th kilometer. What would be your arrival time? Okay? And you work it out like that. So on the run, you have to keep working out what are your averages, right? So you will be given the instructions half an hour before. So that is where all this challenge comes in, right? You don't have any route instruction, nor your timing charts. Everything is given half an hour before. So if you have 10-15 timing sections, you will work out how long each of those sections will take, and maybe if you want to do averages every kilometer or every half a kilometer, whatever you like to do, you can work that out and keep calculating as you go on. A bit like going to school, so you know the basic 3 calculations we use, right? So if you know the distance, you have to multiply, to find the distance, you'll have to multiply the speed with the time. If you know the duration, you'll have to divide the distance by speed, right? Okay. And also in order to convert it to minutes, you have to multiply it by 60, right? And if you want to know how long it takes per kilometer, you have 3,600 divided by the speed. So your 3 simple calculations you will be doing, right? So for your timing instructions, what you will get on the day of the rally when you start, you will get a route instruction as well as your timing instruction, which is what is there on the left side, right? So what I have said, the portion which is called official. So you will get the start kilometer, the end kilometer, and the speed, right? So 0 to 5 in 25, 5 to 8.5 in 32, 8.5 to 14 in 26.7, and so on, right? Sorry. And then, if you want to expand, depending on the level of competitiveness you want to get at, you can start working out the rest of the details, right? The same thing, okay? So 5 kilometers, right? The total duration, if you were to go at the speed of 25, is 12 minutes, right? Okay, and so you will have 144 seconds per kilometer, and so on. So using that, you can keep proceeding without any issue. And this is how your route instructions will be appearing, right? There is no individual words. It's very simple. It's QLIX, right? Okay. So each page will be exactly like this, right? And you will be shown the black dot in each of these instructions. That is where you are and your point of view, right? So if it is a black dot and a straight arrow, what does that mean? You proceed straight. Okay. Suppose if it's a black dot and it's showing an E arrow, right, which means you have to turn left at the junction just to make sure that you are at the correct place. It is also showing slightly off the junction there is another road that is joining it, right? So, very simple to visualize, right? If there is some particular instruction we want to give you, it will be there on the description on the right hand side. Okay? So this was plotted along Navan, so that's why it's saying when you go up, right, you come to the T junction, right, and to make it a little bit more easier, I said turn left towards Navan. Okay? So like that, you will get instructions, right? You won't get words for every single instruction, but you will have QLibs for every single instruction. Okay? So, say for example, if you look at, let's say 2.49 here, instruction number 9. So, by the way, these are instruction numbers, right? And the one on the left-hand corner is your total distance. This is the interdistance from each point. 2.24 to 2.49 is 0.25. Okay? And here it just says you have, when you're turning right, it says Nanda Motors, which means obviously there is a landmark there, right? So just to keep you on track, we might be giving you some instructions like that, right? So that's the sample road book that you will have. This is the format that you'll be getting day after on the rally. And tomorrow we'll also share on the WhatsApp on the test route also something like this, so that you can get a little bit of practice. Okay? Everything clear so far? Right, okay. So now we'll talk about how the app will, yes.
If you withdraw to make a difference?
That, you'll have to ask your organizers.
If you withdraw to make a difference?
Okay. So, if you go into your app, right, you just have to choose Virtual Marshal and install. At the moment it logs you in, right, it will always ask you permission to use location. You have to press OK for this, right, and keep it enabled for this app. Once you do that, right, it will ask you to log in with a Google email ID, right, okay, and Facebook, but now I think Facebook is no longer there. So you just choose your email and log in. After that, whatever the rallies that will come today, at the moment you won't see anything, right? Only tomorrow the test route, and then after tomorrow night, you will have the main rally on this little screen there you have, right? So you have to click sign up, right? Once you sign up on that, okay, it will ask you for your details like your name and all that, and you just enter those, okay, and then it will say awaiting approval, right? So this is to control the people. Each competitor will be using one phone, okay? So you will be declaring your phone, right? And based on your name and phone, we will check and we will approve. Once it approved, only you can run. So no others can clog the app or anything. Yeah. So after you register, you can't change the phone. If there is anything, please speak to the organizers and send us your new phone number, because otherwise we won't know who you are. So if there is an unknown number, we won't be approving that. Clear? Right. So once you register like that, in the morning, when you arrive, when you're getting close to DS, if you look at the app, it will say go to start location. When you press that button, right, it will direct you to come up to Gregory's Road. Okay? And at that point, you will see these three little squares, right? Only once you arrive into the starting area will the third one also enable itself. First, it will say approve. Second, it will say you have arrived at the location. Third one, it will say start. Okay? Once you do that, right, very important that there is this little tick that you have to say by pressing start, you are accepting everything, right? You have to make sure you enable that and press start, right? And then the rest of the time you will be running train, right? So When you're starting, the start button is important. You press that start button and run. And then for the rest of the rally, all you'll be seeing is the screen, right? Which will show the map and the route you're running. Every time you come to a checkpoint, there'll be a message popping up like this, and it'll also say it, right? Saying TC03, whatever, and the distance as well. Okay, so you just from that distance you keep working out, and not the distance on your meter. The distance it gives, you keep working out and keep running. It's as simple as that.
Do you have any demoting for us to practice?
Sorry.
Do you have any demoting for us to practice?
So tomorrow is the practice route, right? We are hoping to. We will leave the instructions for you, right? Tomorrow to run around Colombo, right? Maybe about 6 or 7 kilometers. Since tomorrow is Friday, we'll have it the app running from 8 till about 10:30, right? So within that time, you just go to the start point, right? Follow the instructions on the app, right? And you just keep running.
10:30 in the morning.
No.
There is no calibration this time, it's all on the.
Calibration, yeah. Calibration is all on the meter because now you're running on the GPS signal, so no calibration.
And we can follow this properly.
You can follow the clock because that is also a central clock. There is no calibration of the clock.
We don't need a clock. We don't need a
It's basically network time from the phone. Sorry? No, you don't, now you don't need that. Right? Okay? So how are you going to run? How are you going to run? You'll have to have another meter or something to look at the distance, right? So there are plenty of apps on the Google and all. If you want, you can get a second phone and download the app. It'll give you a meter, right? Okay. There is a lot of apps that you can use, and they work pretty well. And all you need is the meter reading from them, and you can keep proceeding. Okay. If anyone wants any tips, yes.
How many will you repeat what you said last? Another meeting?
Yeah. So now this app will only track your time and location where you are going. So this is like your check card, right? So while going in between, you need to know your distance and all that, no? Right? And if you go the wrong route and you have to come back and reset, etc. So for that, you can use your normal odometer on your vehicle. But if you also want, you can have another phone or something and use another phone meter, trip meter app. Okay?
Anything that you can recommend?
Yeah, I'll put it on the group, some apps that you can use, okay? There are some which you can subscribe, there are some you can use without subscription as well, right? And you can run those. I'll just now share with you a small video of how the app works, what all these screens, how it works. Okay, have a look. So all the things, so basically we have already registered on the app, right? They click and go to the start point, and when you arrive at the start point, it will show instructions like this, right? Now you're getting to the start point, okay? This video is about 3 or 4 minutes, so just keep having a look. That is still to get to the start point. It's only now you have arrived at the start point, okay? In a little bit you can see that distance from you, right? You're driving close. That 10-12 meters is now happening, right? So it changes green and you have to press the start button to start the rally. Once you have started, that little purple tulip or symbol there shows that you have started at the first checkpoint. And now you're following a certain route and you're going through. So you don't need to actually keep staring at this. right? When it comes at a checkpoint, it will announce. If you are hard of hearing, you can set that to the Bluetooth or have a small Bluetooth speaker or something so that it will blast itself and say that you are arrived at checkpoint.
So,
you said you will give us a rule and a rule, the book, right? To show that you are right. Why is it double card mean? Why is it personal mean?
Sorry?
Why is it personal mean?
Yeah, so the purple color is the first time control or the checkpoint.
So all checkpoints will be also there.
It won't show you the checkpoint. Checkpoint is secret until you arrive. So that is what I'm trying to say. Just hold on. Shortly you will arrive at checkpoint.
what about the instructions? Is it on a piece of paper or is it
Yeah,
on the
it's on paper. Just like that paper that I showed you.
You got it?
Oh.
Betul hari ni, mak apa ni? Yang ni tu.
Yeah. Phone එකක් තියෙනවා.
Hari ni bila?
ඒක එනවා phone.
Ya, fokus tu.
So as you can see, that little blue dot, it's exactly a API of the Google Maps, right? So it's just going according to that. Can you see? When you arrive close, the checkpoint came up and it will pop itself, right? Okay. So the messages will come for time. Let's see. I'll fast forward to another checkpoint and let's see how that comes. Okay. As you can see, this is your first checkpoint that it says, right? TC03, right? And until you press continue on the screen, the app is running in the background. You don't need to worry. This is only to give you time so that you can write the time down. If the time disappears, I can show you. You can go and get it back also, right? Okay. So once you pass it, it changes green.
Can we use the speedometer?
The speedometer is there. You can basically go on that. That's okay. You don't need to observe the speedometer on your vehicle. Right? So it will keep proceeding like that. Okay. Let me just see how the announcement goes. I know you can hear it on this. Right?
TC03.
Right? So it will read the instruction for you, right? Which means you know you have arrived at checkpoint. Okay? And when you finish, also I'll show you about watch what happens to your speed on the top left hand corner, right? Sometimes it turns red. If it turns red, which means you're starting to overspeed. To speed. Okay? So the moment you hear that, you've got to drop your speed. Otherwise, if you maintain that speed for 10 seconds, you get penalty.
Right. So when it turns red, it's not that you have incurred a penalty or
You're
it's
starting.
Right.
So the moment you do that, you have to drop fast within the 10 seconds.
right.
Okay? And when the rally is over, it will give you a summary like this, right?
Right.
So anytime you want on the app, you can go into the three bars, right? Click on that, and you can see the summary of your checkpoint. So even if you miss out the time at that point, you can click on that and get the time. The app is running in the background. Okay. Other questions? Like say for example, sometimes you might be going through an area where there is less signal or something like that. App is still working. It will record your position if you arrive at a checkpoint, right? And the moment you come back into signal, it will update us. right? Throughout this app, okay, we are watching you.
Okay.
We know exactly the route you take. For each of you all, it'll plot us the route you took. So if you went the wrong route and came back, you can't try to bullshit us. You will know. Okay? So don't blame everything on the app, right? Obviously, this is technical. There can be something. Then the marshals will take decisions based on that. But generally, this happens. At a previous rally, once they used it. They used one of the latest iPhones and said, you know, I was doing this, that, and the other, right? But then later, when we checked, that person got a call and he was engaged in a call. So that's why he had registered some penalties. He didn't realize, right? We were able to get the log and we were able to see that the signal, if there was a drop, was because he was focused on the call, right? So like that. So it does give us some data of what you're doing, where you're going, etc. The main thing is to keep your phone fresh, fully charged, so that you can run, right? Try not to keep it too much in the sun, right? If you're running with AC, closer to an AC or something like that in the car, it'll be better, right? You can mount it on the windscreen, etc. That's okay, but let's say if it's not in direct sunlight, put a cloth over it or something like that to keep it cool, right? Because the sunlight can be terrible at times. That's the only thing. Other than that, everything is straightforward. We'll share this presentation on the group, right? I'll share some examples, some apps that you can try to download for meter reading, for odometer, okay? And then we'll share the practice route tomorrow sometime during the day, so you can print it out and practice it in the night. Okay? Important is that you got to register. Yeah. Give me a second. I'll show you a picture of what I mean.
Yeah, and one more thing, that when you say that excellence is late and checkpoint, then we don't have power that level, you continue from there, you can excellence late. So if you run as to the speed is given, after the 10 seconds are late, when you're running, even again that time also if you are more than the speed, you show everything.
The more than the speed means it's only if you are over speeding, meaning like say for example your average speed is 40 kilometers per hour, right? Now maybe you're late. Now you're trying to catch up. By trying to catch up, you're running like a high speed, let's say 80 kilometers per hour. Yeah, we would tell you on the route instructions, we would tell you in these areas, this is the maximum speed you can maintain. So if you go beyond that, then you're asking for trouble because you will have penalties incurred.
And if you know where we need right now, the kilometers we show that.
No. Because on the app you can't manipulate your distances and all. It only controls your time. It only logs your time. It's like a check card. You don't do any writing on that. Okay? I'll show you a picture of what I'm trying to get at.
When you say no, you calculate. Why do you still have to have an odometer calculate?
Give me a second. Yeah. Okay, so you can see, if you have one phone, you're running here on the left hand side, right? Okay, so that is only giving you your time, your speedometer, right? But no odometer. So if you keep going into wrong roads and all that, on that app, if we were to have a speed distance, it will show the accumulated distance. You can't manipulate it, right? Okay, so that is why you need to have another app where you can have your trip meters, just like our normal.
Unless you are running an odometer, you calculate the vehicle, right?
You don't-
The vehicle odometer.
Yeah, you have to calibrate, as also you have to do your manual calculation. If you went 2 kilometers in wrong direction and you come back, you have to minus that, right? on this kind of phone apps, you can reset it, just like a professional rally meeting. So you need to download some of those apps. It's freely available. I'll share with you later today after the presentation. So you can download one of those and use. It's very simple. Any other questions?
When do we have to give the phone number?
So now you all, as part of your registration, we will have your phone number. No? Yeah. If you're going to use, if you want to change the phone number, right, you send it to the organizers, right? Or if you type your name correctly on this thing, when you log in, if you type your name properly and we can recognize you, right? Okay? And we will assign the competition number. The moment you say approve, you will have your competition number assigned. So, yeah. No, not Saturday morning, before Saturday morning. So tomorrow, once we are ready, once you finish your normal rally, we will give you an information to say register after the practice run to register into the app for the second one. Tomorrow during the day you can register for the practice run. Just not to confuse you that we will have the two separate. Okay?
But they have given the proper phone number, right?
Yeah. If you have already given the phone number and if there are no changes, we can easily observe. Right? The second thing is, even if you don't give the phone number, if you type your name properly, right, and if the name matches your co-driver or your driver's name, we can approve that. That's not a problem. Yeah. The only thing is like if you say TJ Fernando on the registration, and tomorrow when you log into the app, you just say Janit Fernando, I won't know who it is. So you should use the same registered name as part of the competitor name on that app. No, we will assign to you. On the app, we will assign. You know your number, keep that in your mind. We will look at that and assign.
Then got the numbers or
Take them numbers, but on the app, they don't even type it. When they are assigned the number, they know that everything is approved and accepted.
Yeah, but then the starting mode is.
Yeah.
But here.
No, so this number will be put into the app. Once you, it's like this, you will register and it will say awaiting approval. Once we see who it is, we will check with the list that you all have given and the number you have assigned. Say someone has 24, we will assign 24.
Then we'll put on the group. We'll prepare the entire running order with the name. Okay? And put it in the group.
Should I put some sort of a Google form or something so that everybody can put their name and telephone number?
So now what you